Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone, and good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the fourth talk in the series called Mental Health Awareness. Today's talk is going to be on being extremely sensitive to criticism and failure. So, we're going to be looking at this topic from the psychological, social understanding, and then trying to look at the Buddhist perspective in what teachings one can overcome the sensitivity to criticism and failure. Okay, so we've been doing really well. I mean, starting from the first topic which we discussed on addict. I guess it's about addiction, and then we also talked about bully kindness, and last week we talked about healthy eating habits. At the same time, cravables, and then how to overcome a modern self-modification, Artha Kilamatana Yoga, in the contemporary context. So, looking at today's topic, it is very, very daunting to all of us because we all are kind of being more criticized than being complimented, right? Uh, because if you take a day, you see that you are more, constructed, criticized either constructively or, not constructively, than, being complimented. Therefore, it is a very beneficial topic for us to understand how to take the load of, I would say, the amount of criticism that are aimed at us. Now, what happens to many is they get really, I would say, dejected. At the same time, they feel really depressed, and they sometimes, I would say, you know. Hide themselves, especially in the context of their feelings, and they're gonna be more introverts rather than being extroverts to understand, especially the nature of the criticism. Now, the most basic rule that we know is that, when, about the criticism is that when you want to make a criticism about somebody else, you need to respect the individual. Do not direct your criticism at the person, but the particular activity, the behavioral thing that the particular person uh, did towards you or the other people. And also, there are other things you need to think about. Is it the right time? Is it the right way? Right? So, we had to look at all these elements before we make a criticism towards something or about somebody. Now, there are plenty of lazy critics. I mean, partially understanding that criticism is kind of a necessary thing to all of us. Unfortunately, a lot of people take it, negatively, because I believe that I really like to get criticized, constructively, so that I can progress myself. I can know where I have gone wrong. But I know that at the same time, not everybody can, take that amount of criticism, or to the level of criticism that I have. I'm okay. I'm not criticized all the time, but even if I'm supposed to, get criticism constructively, I'm taking it really in a positive way. So this is my first suggestion, advice to you at the beginning, before we jump into criticism and how criticism, arise and appear to you, direct at you, and what you can do mentally and physically. At the same time, we're going to be looking at failure. So people actually get criticized for different things. Probably their path, their unending thinking towards the success. If the successful journey falls away, then they think that they are fail and they are with a lot of failures. So this is why we have to look at this criticism topic in a very balanced, neutral, positive way, rather than take it in a really, uh, I would say, negative way. So I wanted to tell you that criticism is a teaching moment. I would say it's a teaching moment if the criticism is being done in the proper way. Now the issue is that people who normally are critical about other people, they are doing it sometimes in the wrong way. So you can be critical. Even the Buddha said to us, you have to be self-critical about what you talk, what you do, what you think. So if there's anything that somebody notices about us, and if that person can kindly let us know, hey, this is something that I see in you. I mean, this is what I see. If you really want to, I would say, fix that particular issue, that's up to you. But I just see it if you really want to take it. So criticism is not bad, but the problem is the way how it is being done, or how it is being done, and the proper time, and the motive behind the person, intention behind the criticism, and all that. So for the most time, we see a lot of lazy critics, where we see that they don't have the critical nature, enough adequate critical nature. So I think that they need to be good critics. I think a lot of people, more than they talk about what criticism were directed towards them, they haven't been good critics. So they can't take. At the same time, the people who are directing criticism towards you, they are not good critics either. But we know that it takes time to be a good critic. I mean, especially not from the book's knowledge. I mean, you need to have a practical understanding, hands-on experience, good understanding with time and a lot of people. So you know how to uh, give your proper, ethical, I would say, good criticism towards someone, because you think that that person will fix the issue, fix issues, and then progress, over time. Now, when we discuss about criticism and failure, we have uh, popular types of psychological disorders, where we see that there is something about uh, extreme sensitivity towards, especially the criticism. Now, there's one particular disorder called narcissistic personality disorder, where we see people who do not like to accept other people, and they are very, I would say, they are very, uh, sensitive, extremely sensitive towards other people's good criticism. And we have seen some political figures too, right? They do not like to accept what other people have about them, especially in the proper right order. So it is said that it is marked by extreme fear of rejection and criticism that leads to an inability to engage in meaningful relationships with other people. So now, extreme sensitivity, uh, although we take it from the good side and we wanted to address the issue, at the same time helping those folks who are having this, who have been actually dealing with this particular extreme sensitivity towards criticism, we also need to see those of them who have the same issue in a different way, I would say, in an unethical way. Those are folks who are very you know uh, who are very, I would say, insensitive towards those good comments towards them. So it comes as a personality disorder, called it narcissistic personality disorder. And there's another disorder we understand by avoidant personality disorder. Now, this is mostly, I would say, somebody who has a lot of fear, lot of fears about rejection. I mean, especially when it comes to, I would say, failure. Now, the other part of the discussion today is the failure. Now, a lot of people do not talk about success in a very balanced way. They always think that if you want to be successful, you need to be successful from the beginning, from day one. I don't think if you take a look at of the people who have been successful in their own industries, in their own fields, have been successful from day one. So, in my understanding, just to give you some relief to your mind about success, I would say we are, this statement, we are perfectly imperfect. That is my kind of a daily affirmation. But it does not let me think that success is not something not to pursue. We have to pursue, but in case we might not be successful, at that point, we should not think that success is something that we always have to pursue. I mean, we should not think that success is something that we must pursue. Even at any point, because we may succeed, we may fail, but we always have a chance, opportunity to bounce back, right? We always have a chance to be resilient, right? So a lot of people, they forget about I would say the hidden meaning, the hidden, I would say the gray area of success. So if you only think that you have to be successful, I understand that everybody is trying their best to be successful, but in case you are not succeeding very well, do not worry, because uh, understanding that success can come in different forms, even with some gray areas, is the fact. And if you believe in that thing, you are definitely moving towards your own success. So do not always think then that you have to be successful from day one. So going back to the statement, we are perfectly imperfect. This is a good one. Not to, I would say, discourage you about the success, or just to consider only the failure, but to understand, but to give you a kind of a balance, kind of a very liberal, kind of a very I would say neutral understanding about our efforts to try in about different things. So you are uh, comfortable, you are very balanced, then you try your best. Sometimes you may fail, sometimes you may succeed, but when you keep doing very well with some good intentions and with some persisting I would say um, effort, persisting I would say your attempts, you will be making yourself the best. So failure shouldn't be a word that you should not dislike. Failure should be a word that you should embrace. Okay, because you only accept the word called success. That is why when things go wrong, when things go for different reasons, haywire, you get really, I would say, upset, at the same time really uncomfortable. So let's keep the both side of our life, success and failure, to be neutral positions, but we are trying our best. In case we fail, we're going to embrace that, we're going to accept that we fail, but it doesn't mean that I have failed permanently and I have so many opportunities to continue, right? So that is something I want to talk about before I jump into the rest of the I would say details about criticism and how to overcome all that. Now, folks, if you have any questions, please type in the comments below, and I can get to those questions in the meantime. As I mentioned to you at the beginning, criticism is the practice of judging the merits and faults of something. If you do really well, if you do according to the proper way. So I wanted to tell you that criticism is a good thing only if you do it in the right way, at the right time, with the right intention. Now, this is what we know from the Buddhist perspective. Now, in the Buddhist perspective, the Buddha always asks monks, nuns, and lay people to be self critical about what you've been doing the whole day, at the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day, during the day. You have to self reflect, self critical about what you've been doing. It is only by being self critical you understand where you have gone wrong. and what you need to, I would say, cultivate, and how you can avoid the mistakes you have done during the day. So, being critical is a good thing. But if you do it, I mean, especially when you talk about being critical about other people, you have to know the particular intention of why you want to be critical, and the proper time and the proper way. Because a lot of people, they want to do, I would say, there are ways of being, criticality, I would say, criticism at the wrong time, in wrong ways, right? So then, what is actually imminent is actually there will be some commotions, fights, argument that we can witness. Now, if you take a look at of our daily life, now if you are a person who works with other peers, now a peer or a supervisor or a boss or a leader, right, may provide some feedback about your performance. I mean, that is not bad. I mean, if that feedback happens, if that feedback is directed at you in the proper way without making you upset, right? Even a friend, even a minor, right? Now we know in one of the examples, one of the very famous, stories about Venerable Sariputta. One day, Venerable Sariputta was dressed. I would say he was dressed not improperly, but he was dressed in a way that is not proper. At that point, Venerable Rahula, I would say, he was Venerable Rahula, the Buddha's son. He pointed out to Arahant Sariputta, Bhante, I think that your robe is actually drooping somewhere. So I can see that it's drooping on the floor. And then Arahant Sariputta, he, paid respect to Venerable Rahula. That's that very young, very small little monk. Thank you for the advice, right? So that means there's no problem about the age when you want to be criticized by other people. It's not, I mean, not a big criticism, but I would say whenever somebody wants to, I would say, show you some of the things that you've been doing in the wrong way, improper way, I would say, irregularly. If somebody wants to do it in a proper way, I mean, the criticism, you should be very humble enough to accept it, though you are an adult, though you may be a big person. So being humble is the key, to accept the criticism. So there are a bunch of examples about the benefits of being, you know, uh, being actually kind, being actually, nice to people who give us good criticism. But we should never plan to direct any unjustified or angry criticism, or I would say consistent, harsh criticism. Now, this is what people do. There are people who are mostly, now, a lot of people who are doing this criticism for the most part, I would say, the most time, they are sometimes doing it with so much unjustified ways, or probably with a lot of anger. Sometimes this could keep going as a consistent harsh criticism. That is really bad. This is why I'm telling you that we have to let other people know about our criticism in the proper way, at the proper time, okay, towards the right person as well. Now, if you take a look at of other instances where uh, criticism has gone wrong, you can see when somebody is actually trying to criticize in the wrong way, I mean, consistently, I mean, this harsh, angry criticism, it can be ended in a form of bullying. Now, this is what we actually discussed a couple days ago. So, when somebody is trying to find fault about your one of the things and not having the proper intentions to correct you in the right way, it can be a sort of bullying. And we never like other people bully us, right? So it can even go as far as a bullying. Bullying is really bad. This is why I'm reiterating that if you want to help someone, I mean, in the form of a criticism, you should know the right time, right way, right intention of doing that, right? Some people just say whatever they think about other people in public. the people getting really embarrassed. So we have to understand the proper way, proper time, intention, and we should be very kind, compassionate to do that. Otherwise, we should find a good time to do it. Okay. So now we also see about children. Now this is a very big impact to many when they were children. Now, when children are criticized over and over by their parents, even for a small thing, I know that there are parents who always wanted to say things like, "What is wrong with you? What were you thinking? How could you do that?" I mean, you should know that how to accept your children. I mean, you should not always bring criticism about them, right? Now, in our normal cultures, we always say that before you criticize someone, look at the meritorious side, look at the merits of that particular person, talk about the good things about that person, then only talk about the criticism part. That is how we're supposed to do our criticism. Don't try to uh, bring up criticism at the beginning as the first thing, right? So if you are a parent, when you have a conversation with your children, never ever bring up criticism as the first thing, right? Because they do their things their own ways, in their own ways. We have to respect that. But if you really think there is something wrong with them, you have to find out a good way. That means talk about the good things they have, and then ask them, if you do a little bit differently, a little bit this way, that way, you will do the best. You will do better or something. I mean, they will be happy. Who is unhappy when they are said that you are doing better, but if you could change a little bit, you will be the best, right? They will be happy to do that. But if you start the conversation, you are bad, you did really wrong, and you ruin everything, nobody likes it. Nobody. I mean, even animals don't like. So this is where some children will become individuals where they have a lot of uh, psychological issues. There are harmful effects that those children will face because of the parents' negative perspective about their life. I mean, who is right all the time? Who is doing everything very well all the time? Because we are all humans, right? There may be someone who is doing really well, compared to somebody else. But even you take it from one person's angle, I don't think there's no one. There's somebody who is doing things all the time to the best of what they have, right? So we have to accept people. If there are any mistakes, errors that they are making, failures, we have to show them in a way where we can show them some affirmations, not negatively. Talk about the good things they have, maybe what they have done, and then bring up the criticism as an addition. Not you bring up negative part first and then the positive part a little later. I mean, I would like if people can manage this kind of a very positive, because we all like to uh, spend a pleasant life. We never want to be neglected. We never want to be criticized as the first thing that we can hear from somebody else. So these are the same people. When the children were negatively, I would say, commented, criticized, then these are the people who will have lot of mental issues like depression, bipolar issues, and all those issues, because they believe that the kind of criticism that are directed from their loved ones within their house, within their family, are more powerful than the criticism that they are having from outside the house. Now, this is a simple thing. If somebody in your family is going to be critical about you at all times, right? If you look at that particular scenario, and if you take a look at somebody else outside of your house, if somebody else maybe in a different place is going to be critical about you, you take the family perspective as being heavier than the ones that you are having from the outside person, because you love them, because you are very close to them. That is why uh, the family people, I would say, parents, siblings, we all have to have a cooperative environment when we talk about the criticism. Otherwise, there will be some bad effects, I would say harmful effects, to those people who we are going to criticize. Now, a lot of researchers have found out that there are more people who are more sensitive to criticism. Now, on average, in this world, there are more people who are very sensitive to criticism. It is it is because the people who are critical about others don't know how to do it. On the other hand, the people who are getting the I would say criticism from them do not know how to accept that. So there are two ways that we have to address. So today we are looking at the two aspects of the critical, I would say extreme sensitivity towards criticism and failure from both from the victim side and the side of the people who are doing that. So then people will have will make better choices when they are doing it. The reason is the people who are more prone to criticism than the other people, they are actually having that particular nature of vulnerability because of a cognitive bias. Because when somebody criticizes us, there is always ambiguous information that we can see that are passed through from these people. They are ambiguous to you because you never thought that particular aspect of that particular activity. Let's say I am to make a product, and then I do it very well, but somebody is looking at it differently. But I haven't looked at that side, so it is very ambiguous information for me. And when that person is going to comment on that, it is really ambiguous to me. So if I do not know how to process the ambiguous information that is coming from a critic, then what will happen? I may be defensive, I may be retaliating, right? So to most people, the sort of ambiguous information that come in the form of a criticism uh, is a very big thing. So this is why a lot of people, they interpret these ambiguous information negatively. They take it very wrongly, right? Rather than in a very neutral or positive manner. Now, when somebody says to you that you are this and that, you don't need to you know, uh, I would say be defensive. First, listen to what they're saying, right? This is just a thought. But if you can give some real attention to what that person is talking about you or your particular activity, probably there is something you can fix. I mean, if it is directed in the right, proper way. So, what I want to say is that a lot of people are very insensitive. I would say they are not sensitive to the criticism because they don't know how to accept the ambiguous information, because criticism means ambiguous information. So those ambiguous informations are being processed negatively by those people. But if you are a good person, but if you are a really strong person, you will process this ambiguous information that comes in the form of a criticism in a positive, neutral manner. Okay, let's look at the purpose of criticism. Now, there are wrong ways we can witness in somebody's criticism, as I said to you at the beginning. Now, if the recipient of the critic is going to be hurt by your, I would say, criticism, there's something you have to think about, because then that means we may have done it in a wrong way. I mean, I know, looking at the fact that a lot of people don't know how to process the ambiguous information, maybe a lot of people might be hurt. But the thing is, if there are people who can be strong, then how do you bring up their criticism uh, from your side? That is why I'm telling you that you have to know the best possible way to direct your critique, I would say your criticism towards them. At the same time, if your criticism may not, if your critique may not result in any positive change. Sometimes you want to be critical and you're going to share with the person, but it might not improve. That means you haven't done it in the proper aspect, proper way, in the proper wording, proper context, proper time, right? So you should find out the best possible ways to persuade the person if you really think there's something wrong, there's something really lacking. And then going back to the positive side in criticism, the first thing is you had to do a diagnosis and error correction. Now you had to diagnose, I mean, what is going on, at the same time how I can correct the errors in this perspective, right? And at the same time, improvements, how I'm going to improve the other person with my criticism. I think a lot of people, I mean, they do it without knowing how this will help that person uh, to improve the certain problem, the certain error, certain failure. So you have to look at how can my criticism, my critique, improve the other person who has done something wrong, something in the proper way, and the ethical implications. We have to always be respectful about the ethical implications, because if you are not doing your criticism in the ethical context, there may be some certain effects, I mean, bad effects. So in this context, I'm asking you to be very concerned about a couple of things. Your point of view, in what context, in what framework you are going to criticize the particular thing. So as I repeatedly told you at the beginning, do not pick on the person. Always pick on the particular activity that person may have done for you to be critical. A lot of people, when they want to criticize, they want to attack the particular person. But if you look at the proper way, you should never pick on the particular person. Otherwise, this is going to be a personal attack. You should only look at the particular activity, particular speech, particular word a person may have done. So you are trying to fix that particular issue, not you are trying to correct a person. I mean, if that is going to happen, people might be very defensive. So in what context, in what framework, or in what I would say perspective you are going to be critical. So you have to look at that perspective first, and then the content. What are the contents of your criticism? You should know how you're going to, and what you're gonna talk about, how you're gonna make the criticism, and the purpose. Your purpose has to be very ethical. I mean, if you're trying to attack someone, even in the form of a good critical analysis, that is not good. You have to have a very good intention. And the form of criticism, the style, the format. Now, I think the tone, probably the tone. Some people, they want to be critical in a very emotional tone. That is no good too. And method of delivery, right? The transmission, communication pattern. Type of critic, which includes, the source, the type of source that you are using for the criticism, and the target, the object of the criticism. I mean, you have to pick on the proper, right object to be critical. If you are picking on the wrong, even if you are not picking on the person, if you are picking the wrong object, I mean, I ask you to look at the particular activity. Let's say if the activity is an object, then you have to narrow down the particular activity that you want to be critical. So you are not deviating, and the person can be really influenced with your criticism, and the context, and the recipe, and the audience. So these are a couple things: point of view, content, purpose, form, method of delivery, type of critic, target, context, and the audience, the person that you are aiming your criticism. If you really want to, I would say, strategize, optimize your criticism, you should have a good motivation, you have a good intention, and the particular meaning of your criticism, and the effect that will be on the particular person or group of people. And you have to always look at what and how the particular recipients will be trying to respond to you. Because if there will be a fight, argument, you should know how you're going to minimize those kind of things before you make the criticism. And the quantity and the quality of your criticism, you have to be very meritorious when you make the criticism. criticism. And all that is very necessary, because otherwise you are making a mistake even when you are trying to do it. With all that, there may be some gray areas in your criticism. I would say, there may be people, I would say, who might not want to accept your criticism. It is because you don't know how to do it. It is because you haven't understood your audience, the person. So you have to look at some of the gray areas when you want to be critical. So, what are the issues in being critical? Now, I'm still talking about the people who are critical about other people. Then we will look at uh, how to, I would say, overcome, uh, you know, fears and all that related to criticism. I'm slowly looking at, because I can then cover most of the people in this scenario. If you are trying to attack other people, especially the people you are trying to be critical uh, for different personal things, then that will really damage them to change. Because if you, let's say there is somebody that you really want to be critical, but if you are doing a personal attack in the form of criticism, then they will also lose the opportunity to change. That is really bad, huh? Very sad. So that's why you have to do it properly. Otherwise, there will be some disconnections towards, between you and that person. At the same time, they will also lose the time. They will also lose the opportunity to change. And also, uh, you can do the criticism with a bit of with a bit of humor. I would say, if you are giving the due credits, the positive comments to them first, and then if you bring up the criticism, that is nicer. That is actually more helpful, beneficial for them to, I would say, immerse with your criticism. So you have to look at all these ways, and you should be able to have some, I would say, some of the qualities that to be cultivated within you in order to be a very good critic: insight, attitude, inquiry, knowledge, skills, integrity. So if you want to be a good critic, you have to develop insight. You should understand how to do this. I mean, this insight thing, your attitude, inquiry. You have to inquire first before you jump into criticism towards somebody. And your knowledge, you have to develop your knowledge, and you have to develop your skills and integrity. One of the most important things that a lot of people miss out is the balance, because there are people who can be too critical. That is no good too, right? So not being critical and being too critical, they are two extreme ends. So you have to balance your perspective, because if you are not a critic, then you can't help somebody else. But if you are too critical, nobody likes you, because you are always making a mess. Wherever you go, you're gonna say, "This is what I think. This is what I think. You have to do like this," right? People don't like you at that point, right? So you can actually keep a balance of how you're gonna operate, exist, right? And people who are very critical, too critical, and focus only on the negative sides, I mean, they are mostly labeled as the uh, too negative people. I would say very negative people. So they lack the constructive part of the criticism. That is why when we talk about criticism, always try to have this criticism on a constructive basis. Never ever be a mere critique, right? There are a lot of people who are mere critics, actually critics. So you have to be a constructive critic, because your criticism has to be very constructive. Otherwise, you are being very negative. You are being really, attacking other people, right? At the same time, when you are uncritical, let's say you have no critical element within your criticism, then you will be very naive and superficial, because you lack discernment. Uh, Most time, for the most part, I mean, oftentimes there are people who are not critical. I mean, who are not adequately critical, they are people who are very naive and superficial. They even cannot understand what is going on actually. I mean, what is being happened. So, I mean, you should not fall into that category as well. You should not be overcritical and then become an uncritical person. So, now we move on to the extreme sensitivity part, extreme sensitivity to criticism part. Now, so far we have studied the importance of being critical, but how we can, uh, be critically. I would how we can be constructively critical is the most important thing, because if you miss out on that constructive criticism, then that is a big problem. And we also talked about how to make a constructive criticism in many formats, the audience, the format, context, contents, all that. And then we also talked about how to positively, how to develop our constructive criticism. And now we have come to the people who are being sensitive to criticism. Now we already talked about some of the basic things. I would say uh, people who are mostly, I would say, extremely sensitive to criticism are the people who were ignored actually in their childhood. So that is one thing, because they were not actually considered to be people, somebody's in their household. There may be other reasons too. If you are not giving enough credit, if you are not talking the positive side of many, and they are taking it a very in a very bad way, so it will actually last in their whole life, throughout their whole life. They even don't like to get a review. I mean, they are really afraid of the reviews. Now I know there are people, when they give a talk, when they give a presentation, how much they are suffering, because they think that, okay, now these are my enemies who are going to give a comment, right? But we have to always treat comments in a very positive, neutral manner. I mean, okay, there may be something that I need to, correct in me. Probably there may be developments, right? We should be very patient enough to accept, not getting so much defensive that I did the best, something like that. Okay. Now, in this context of being very sensitive to criticism, we understand a couple reasons. As I brought up at the beginning, there are certain childhood experiences we notice. Now, as we said, that children, they are being treated very negatively, because parents actually, I would say, they take them in a way that they don't accept them. That is one main reason. The second one is the sense of uh, competence and confidence was not fostered and allowed to flourish, is likely to have a difficulty receiving. Right now, if somebody lacks in uh, the confidence, at the same time, if somebody is going to have a hard time in the competence, as at the same as well as the competition, these could be also the reasons where people might be really, I would say, uncomfortable in having a criticism, even a constructive criticism. And also the cognitive bias, because in the context of a cognitive bias, a lot of people who are very sensitive to uh, I would say, the ambiguous information, they are processing all that information negative, because they don't like to look at it. They don't know what this is all about. That's why we have to always prepare us to open up for ambiguous information that are coming in the form of a constructive criticism, right? I mean, you may have not looked at it before, but these are new things. Why don't I look at it without getting really uncomfortable? So those are a couple of reasons: childhood experiences, confidence issues, other competition, comparative issues, and then the cognitive bias. So with that in mind, what are the impact of a bad, I would say, criticism? I would say a negative criticism. Now, what we can see in the people who think that they are very sensitive to, criticism. So they they actually very unable to understand what is going on actually, because they don't know how to process the ambiguous information, and we see that they have a very decrease in motivation, especially performance level, because they always think that somebody will pick on, somebody will say a bad thing, right? There may be people who want to be critical about us, but it doesn't matter to us. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't matter to us, because the thing is, we know what we've been doing, and they will continue to avoid constructive criticism throughout the life. Okay, so now we have come to the Buddhist point of view in coping up the criticism. So the first step that I wanted to share with you is, when you are being, if you are a person who is very sensitive to your criticism, I mean, people, when people are criticizing you, you need to remain calm, or you can postpone the conversation until a state of calm can be achieved. Now, a lot of people, they do the opposite. They are not calm. They want to be defensive. At the same time, they don't want to postpone the conversation, right? Because if you are not calm enough, you can't take the particular criticism, even that is constructive. So even there is constructive or not constructive criticism is aimed at you, you need to remain calm. If you don't know what to do, you need to postpone the conversation until a state of calm can be achieved. Now, what are the examples that we can see in the Buddhist stories? Now, we know there was a Brahmin called Akkosaka Bharadwaja. This Brahmin came to the Buddha, see the Buddha, and then started blaming him for a bunch of reasons. Buddha didn't say anything, because he knew, if he would talk to a person who's very angry, uh, if he had talked to an angry person, he would have not understood as well. So he was waiting until the Brahmin is going to be calm. So the Brahmin probably kept blaming the Buddha, probably some time. And then once he stopped, then Buddha asked a question from him: "Are you done?" And the intelligent Brahmin told the Buddha, "Yes, I'm done." And then only Buddha asked a question. See how he managed. He was very calm, remain calm, never ever defend unless there is a physical assault. Only if there is a physical assault, you have to defend, but in the proper way. But if there is not a physical assault, it is just a kind of a bad. I would say, if it's a bad criticism or a constructive criticism that you can take, you need to remain calm. So the Buddha only uh, talked to him after he finished, because never ever talk to an angry person, right? You have to first remain calm. This is the first thing, how to cope up with this extreme sensitivity towards criticism. And what about the stories like Angulimala? In Angulimala's story, we know Angulimala talked to the Buddha. Buddha never talked to him, right? He was waiting. And when Angulimala said that, hey, monk, stop there. And the Buddha said, I already stopped. You are the person who is still running. See how he calmly responded to Angulimala, right? Calmness. What about the Attakara story? Attakara Brahmin, I would say, in this I would say this story, a Brahmin came and then blamed the Buddha that he does not believe in effort, courage, enthusiasm, stamina, and all that. And then Buddha patiently, he was very calm. Once he finished, then Buddha said to him, "You know what? How much preparation did you have before you come into the temple to talk all that? See, now you believe. Now can you see that how much effort, how much perseverance, enthusiasm you had before you coming over here? That means enthusiasm exist. I would say persistence exists, right? Effort exists, diligence exists. See how calmly Buddha manage his time. But if the Buddha was trying to say things during the time he was talking, he was blaming, he would have not listened to him. Calmness. And there were multiple occasions where Buddha was criticized by the people. Remember when the Sundari was killed by the heretics, and then the people, I mean, the Dayakas, they started blaming the Buddha. But Buddha was not moved away by these comments. If he knew what would happen, right? So, being calm, remain calm is the first thing towards a sensitive, extreme sensitivity towards criticism. If you cannot remain calm, depending on your personal temperament, then at least postpone the conversation. Let's say you can tell that person, you know what, can I listen to you later in a very calm voice? Because if you are a person who can't take the criticism right away, then you will be prepared to take that comment later on a day that you think. Second step that I present to those people who are very sensitive to criticism is obtain clarification when criticism is vague or non-specific. Now, if the ambiguous information, okay, if the ambiguous information is coming towards you, you have a right to ask that person why you are, why you are doing this. Probably you can ask, can you bit clarify, because I feel that the ambiguous information, the information that you are channeling at me, they seem to be vague and non-specific, right? I don't understand. Can you be clear? Can you elaborate on a little bit? Then you will understand more. Probably this could be a way that you can understand the problem in a broad, I would say, much clear way. That's the second thing. Actually, if somebody blames you, this is also kind of criticism. If you ask, why you blaming me, why you criticize me, it's a good way to understanding. Even that is a non I would say constructive criticism, I would say a bad criticism. Another step that you can do is evaluate and consider the criticism and any merit it may have, rather than simply reacting to it. Look at whether the criticism that is aimed at you has some merits where you can improve yourself, rather than be trying to be defensive. A lot of people, they do not look at the meritorious side. Now, if you look at many occasions where arahants also learn, like in the example of venerable arahant, I would say Sariputta, he was a big figure, after the Buddha, but he didn't actually reject the comment, criticism, feedback which was aimed at him by this 7 years old Rahula, monk Rahula, right? So there is a positivity, there is a merit. Sometimes there are a lot of things. I think it is always, understandable that we have things that we do in different ways. Other people take it in a different way. Probably if you look at them, if you pay a little bit attention to them, you can fix those issues. If they do it the right way, as we said at the beginning, then you can progress yourself. You can improve yourself as a better person. So consider even the criticism that is channeled at you from different people, because there may be some merits. You need to let yourself understand. Probably you may have to change. Change is also a good thing, right? Another, I would say, the fourth step that I ask you to practice if you are a very sensitive person towards criticism is acknowledge the feedback even when it was not constructive or helpful, and express gratitude. Now, this is very interesting. Even the feedback or constructive criticism that is coming as a feedback seems to be bad, seems to be not constructive, but still acknowledging, because acknowledging is not bad. uh, I mean, because you should be thankful to somebody who wants to make you a better person, right? On the other hand, express your gratitude towards that person. I'm very grateful to you for doing this, so the other person understands it, in a better way. Finally, this is really an interesting thing. A lot of people may be already doing that. Avoid counter criticism, especially when it is fueled by anger or frustration. If you know that criticism is channeled at you in anger, frustration, do not try to counter uh, that particular thing. You had to sort of remain calm. You had to avoid counter criticism, because otherwise there may have some bad things happening without your knowledge, right? So one more time, remain calm. If you cannot remain calm, ask the person to postpone the conversation until a better time arises. And then obtain a clarification when criticism is vague or non-specific, and evaluate and consider criticism and any merit it may have rather than simply reacting to it. Acknowledge the feedback even if it is not constructive, and be grateful towards the person who is channeling at you, and never ever uh, never ever retaliate. I mean, avoid counter criticism, because if you do that, it's going to be a big problem. But I mean, keeping yourself safe is the most important thing. But if it is only a verbal thing, you never try to you never try to retaliate. I mean, you try to uh, I would say uh, do things to, I mean, counter this criticism. So that is really bad. So these are the kind of steps that I want you to actually practice when it comes to extreme sensitivity towards the criticism. On the other hand, about the failures, as I said at the beginning, you need to know that success and failure, they are both uh, you know they are both very important elements of our plans, our achievements. uh, we have to have a very balanced perspective towards the both of them. We should never think we have to always succeed. We have to, I mean, we are doing our best, but we may end up in success or I would say failure. But the most important thing is that we will learn out of all these events. There may be more opportunities pouring in, because if you only think that success, success, you will be more depressed, more frustrated. But do your best. In case it doesn't work out, that will be a next learning point, teaching point for you to practice well. I would say work well, improve well, and then you will be happy. Okay, so I saw there's one question somebody asked here. Okay, Tinko. Bhante, how to deal with people who can't take any criticism or have a difficulties to accept any suggestions? Okay, so if you think that there are people, as we talked about, who can't deal with criticism, you know, you can find out an individualistic aspect approach for them to understand, the criticism that you have for them, because each one is different. If you understand the person, probably you can be a little friendly, and then you can see a better way to communicate, because each one is different. So these difficult people, I would say, the difficult people in terms of uh, criticism, I would say constructive criticism, have to be understood in their own individualistic approaches. So if you know the best way to deal with these difficult people, then there will be a way to share your criticism with them. That is the answer to that. So it is very individualistic. So try to look at different individual people. At the same time, try to create more, I would say, confidence. Try to create, I would say, more persuasions about the particular activity. Try to convince them that I'm trying to do something good, and this is some, probably you can talk about the meritorious side of that person, the good side of that person, and then the wrong thing, I would say, the critical part, as an addition to that particular good thing, rather than talking the negative thing at the beginning. This is what a lot of people do. They talk about the negative things first. 80% the negative things, 20% the good thing. I would say 80%, I would say at least 90% the good stuff. And you are actually making less of the negative thing, rather than talking, I mean, the good things. So you have to always talk the good things of everybody, and then bring up the negative thing, as an addition that will help people to have more trust about you, and then you can communicate, you can share your constructive criticism. Any questions, Dam folks? We'll take another 1 minute. If you have any questions, please type in here in the comments so I can answer. If not, we can go into the transference of merits. Because winning the confidence, I would say, uh, you know, uh, winning the confidence of the particular person who you need to share your criticism is the big thing here. You may have a lot of criticism, but winning that person is the best thing. And then talk the good side about that person as the first approach. And then this negative element, if you really want to share it in a very peaceful, calm manner, right? Okay, looks like there are no more questions and comments, so we're going to actually move on to the transference of merits. May all the good karmas we've been accumulating in all these ways be transferred to all the departed relatives who passed away in the name of all of us. May they be happy and peaceful. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. We always remember and remind Devas and Nagas, those powerful beings. May all the Devas and Nagas share all these good karmas, and may they be well and happy, and may they protect and bless all of us for good health, quality of our life, prosperity, and all the good things, happiness, peace. May all the Devas and Nagas also attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ettavata cha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabbe satta anumodantu sambha sampatti siddhya aka sattha cha bhummattha deva naga mahindika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu loka sasana chirang rakkantu desanang chirang rakkantu mang paranti. Finally, let's make the great wish that we've been having all the time. May all the good karmas we've been accumulating in all these ways be helpful for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana in this very life. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I'm going to bless you with a couple more stanzas. Please receive the blessings. Abhivadana siris nichang vadha pachayano chataru dhamma vadhanti ayuvannu sukham balang आयुरारोग्य संपत्ति संग संपत्ति में विच अतो निब्बान संपत्ति इमिनाथे समिंचतु. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. There's a comment: praise and blame will happen in this conventional world. Not to be elated and overreact with anger. Be mindful and be calm, and examine oneself and to make change. Good idea. I mean, this is what we know in Buddhism, but oftentimes people forget about this advice. People they are in a contemporary world. I mean, they always against. They are always actually disliking criticism because it's kind of a contemporary. That's why we encourage them to think neutrally, think positively about criticism. Take it as a constructive thing. Take it as a progressive thing, not as a negative thing. Because if you change our mind towards criticism, I probably think with the fact that the critic's also going to be really good, and we will be better people. We will be progressive. We will be more developed. We will be more insightful in our life rather than just continue the way we want. Okay, Dhamma folks, and I hope that you have a good day ahead of your time. At the same time, have a good night for those folks who joined from here, Canada, US. Thank you. Have a good day. Take care.